Listen closely, my friends. There is a strange truth about life that most people never realize. The more noise a person creates, the less control they actually have over their life. Look around carefully. The people who talk the most about their plans rarely achieve them. The people who constantly explain themselves rarely feel confident inside. And the people who react to everything never truly control anything. Because real power does not live in noise. Real power lives in silence. But to understand this, we need to look at something simple. Imagine a farmer in a quiet village. At the beginning of the season, he walks into his field carrying a small bag of seeds, and there is nothing impressive about what he is doing. No audience, no applause, no recognition. He kneels down, presses a tiny seed into the soil, and covers it with dirt. From the outside, it looks like nothing happened. The field still looks empty, and weeks pass with nothing appearing. If someone impatient walked by, they might laugh and say, "You planted seeds, but nothing is happening." But the farmer does not argue. He does not explain, and he does not dig the seeds back up to prove they are growing. He simply continues his work in silence, because he understands something most people don't, that the most important growth always happens underground. Roots form before the plant appears, and strength develops before results become visible. And if you disturb that process too early, you destroy it. Your life works exactly the same way. When you constantly talk about your goals, you are digging up the seeds of your own progress. And when you explain every move to people who don't understand your vision, you waste the energy needed to build it. When you react to every opinion, you lose control over your own direction. Most people never build anything meaningful in life because they are too busy announcing the journey instead of walking it. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said something brutally honest. Don't explain your philosophy, embody it. In other words, stop talking about what you plan to become and become it. Let your actions speak. Let your discipline prove it, and let time reveal it. Because words are cheap, but silent progress is undeniable. Another Stoic thinker, Marcus Aurelius, wrote a line in his personal journal that reveals the secret of inner strength. Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Think about that for a moment. Most people spend years explaining who they want to become, defending their ideas, and arguing with critics. But the Stoics understood something different. Every moment you spend defending your path is a moment you are not walking it. And this is where silence becomes powerful. Silence forces you to turn your attention inward instead of asking what people think about you. You begin asking what you are actually doing. Instead of reacting to every opinion, you focus on improving your actions. And instead of broadcasting your plans, you execute them quietly. Slowly, something begins to change inside you. Your mind becomes clearer, your focus becomes stronger, and your confidence stops depending on other people. Because the moment you stop seeking validation, you reclaim something extremely valuable, your energy. Energy that was once wasted on arguments, explaining yourself, and distractions suddenly becomes available for something powerful, progress. And here is the strange paradox of silence. The less you speak about your plans, the more powerful your actions become, and the less you react to criticism, the more control you gain over your emotions. The less you seek approval, the more confident you naturally become, because confidence built through silence is different. It is not loud, not arrogant, but calm, stable, and unshakable. But modern society makes this extremely difficult. Today, the world rewards noise, and everyone is encouraged to share everything, their thoughts, plans, and opinions. You are told that if you are not constantly speaking, you are invisible, but the Stoics understood a deeper truth. Visibility is not power, control is power. And control begins the moment you stop giving your attention to everything around you and start focusing on what is within you. Because once a person truly learns to focus on themselves, their life begins to move in a completely different direction. They stop chasing approval, reacting to distractions, and explaining themselves to people who were never meant to understand them. Instead, they move quietly, think deeply, and work consistently, and slowly, almost invisibly, their life begins to transform. But there is something even more dangerous that most people don't realize, something that quietly steals their focus every single day, something so common that almost everyone has become addicted to it. And until you recognize this trap, your attention will never truly belong to you. Now we will uncover why modern distractions are silently destroying people's ability to focus on themselves. And once you see this truth, you will never look at your time, your mind, or your attention the same way again. If you're new here, please subscribe and like the video, and share your friend who need this. This world is designed to distract you. Yes, if you ever feel like your mind is constantly tired, like your focus disappears too quickly, like you want to work on your life but somehow your attention keeps slipping away, it's not always because you're lazy. Sometimes it's because the world around you is designed to steal your attention, and the tragedy is that most people never notice this trap. They think the problem is them, but the real problem is the endless noise surrounding them. Let me tell you a small story. In many villages there is an old method hunters used long ago to catch monkeys, where they would place a coconut on the ground and carve a small hole in it, placing sweet fruit inside. The hole was just large enough for a monkey to slide its hand inside, but when the monkey reached in and grabbed the fruit, something strange happened. Its fist became too big to pull back out. The monkey could escape at any moment if it simply let go, but it didn't. It held the fruit tightly, and because it refused to release it, the hunter could walk up slowly and capture it. The monkey wasn't trapped by the coconut. It was trapped by its own attachment. Now think about modern life. Your phone buzzes. You reach for it instantly. A notification appears, and you check it. One message leads to another, one video leads to another, and one scroll becomes 10. Minutes turn into hours, and before you realize it, your attention is trapped in the exact same way. Not because someone forced you, but because something inside your mind refuses to let go. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once warned about this long before smartphones existed. He wrote, "People are not careful with their time, yet they treat it as if it costs nothing," and that sentence carries a powerful truth. Money lost can be earned again. Opportunities lost can sometimes return. But time, once it disappears, never comes back. Yet most people spend their time as if it were endless. They give it to distractions, arguments and opinions that will not matter tomorrow, and slowly their most valuable resource disappears. The Stoics understood something simple but powerful. Your life is nothing more than your attention over time, and wherever your attention goes, your life follows. If your attention is scattered, your life becomes scattered, and if your attention is controlled, your life becomes directed. That is why Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "You become what you give your attention to." He ruled an empire surrounded by chaos, wars, politics, conflicts, yet his greatest battle was not outside Rome, but inside his own mind, the battle to stay focused on what truly mattered. Most people lose this battle every single day, not because they lack intelligence or potential, but because their attention is constantly divided. They start something and then get distracted. They try to focus and then react to something unnecessary. They plan their future, then waste hours reacting to things they cannot control. And after years of this cycle, They wonder why their life never moves forward. But the moment you begin practicing Stoic discipline, something changes. You start noticing how often your attention is pulled away, and you see how quickly people react to every small thing. Arguments online, drama between strangers, and opinions unrelated to your path. And suddenly you realize something powerful. Most of the noise in the world is optional. You don't have to participate in it, respond to every opinion, or react to every distraction. This is where silence becomes a weapon, not a weakness, but a weapon. Because every time you refuse to react, you strengthen your control, and every time you ignore unnecessary noise, you protect your focus. Every time you stay silent instead of arguing, you save energy for something that actually matters, and slowly your mind becomes sharper, calmer, and more disciplined. But here is the truth most people find uncomfortable. When you stop reacting to everything, some people will not understand you, and they will ask why you are so quiet, why you don't respond, and why you don't share more. But they ask these questions because they live in a world where constant noise feels normal. They have never experienced the power of controlled attention or the clarity that silence creates. The Stoics practiced something very simple. Before reacting to anything, they asked themselves one question: is this within my control? And if the answer was no, they let it go. They didn't waste emotional energy, argue endlessly, or let outside chaos disturb their inner discipline. And because of this habit, their mind became something rare in any era: unshakable. But there is still a deeper level to this practice, because focusing on yourself is not only about avoiding distractions, it is about learning to direct your mind intentionally. Most people never truly learn this skill, and their attention moves randomly wherever the noise is loudest. But a disciplined mind chooses something different. It chooses purpose. And once a person learns how to control their attention, their life begins to transform in ways that others cannot understand. Because the quietest people in the room are often the ones building the strongest future. They are not announcing their progress. They are not explaining every step. They are simply moving forward, one focused action at a time. But there is still one dangerous habit that silently destroys people's ability to stay focused on themselves. A habit so common that almost everyone believes it is normal, yet it quietly drains motivation, discipline, and mental strength. Now, we will uncover why talking too much about your plans actually weakens your ability to achieve them. And once you understand this psychological trap, you will never share your goals the same way again. There is a strange habit almost everyone has. The moment they decide to improve their life, they feel the urge to tell someone about it. They announce their goals, share their plans, and explain their vision, and for a moment it feels good because people respond with encouragement and praise. They say things like, "That's amazing, I'm proud of you, and you're going to do great." But something dangerous happens in that moment that most people never notice. The moment you start talking about the work, your mind feels like it has already done the work. Let me show you something powerful. Imagine a man who decides to build a house. He buys the land, gathers wood, stone, and tools. But before he even lays the first brick, he begins telling everyone about it. He walks around the village describing the rooms, the design, the windows, and the garden, and day after day he keeps talking, explaining, and imagining. But the strange thing is that the house never gets built, because talking about it gave him the illusion of progress, and the satisfaction that should have come after the work arrived before the work. And slowly his motivation disappeared. This is why disciplined people move differently. They understand something simple. Plans grow stronger in silence, and real progress is not something you announce, but something you build. Think about a craftsman carving a statue from stone inside a quiet workshop, where he spends hours shaping the sculpture while dust fills the air and the hammer strikes the chisel again and again. No one applauds, no one watches, and from the outside it looks like slow, invisible effort. But the craftsman does not run outside every hour to announce his progress. He continues working quietly because he knows the real moment will come when the statue is finally finished and people see the result. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned his students about this exact behavior. He said, "First learn the meaning of what you say and then speak," which points to a deeper truth about action and discipline. In other words, do the work first and let your actions give meaning to your words, not the other way around. Another Stoic teacher, Seneca, observed something about human nature that is still true today. He wrote, "The greatest obstacle to living is expectation. And this becomes clear when you constantly talk about your plans. You begin expecting praise, approval, and recognition, and once those expectations enter your mind, your focus shifts away from the work itself. You stop building for the sake of progress and start performing for the sake of attention. This is why silence protects your ambition. When nobody knows your plans, there is no pressure to impress them, and when nobody is watching, your focus stays on the process. When nobody is praising you, your motivation must come from discipline instead of approval, and that kind of motivation is far more powerful, because it cannot be taken away by criticism or doubt. Think about how nature works. A tree does not grow loudly or announce its progress every morning. Instead, it quietly extends its roots deeper into the ground over time. Storms come, winds push against it, and seasons change. But because its roots are deep, the tree stands strong through everything. By the time people finally notice its height, the real work has already been done beneath the surface. Your personal growth works exactly the same way. The strongest progress often happens in private, in moments when nobody is watching and you choose discipline over distraction. When you continue working even without applause, something begins to change inside you, and slowly, almost invisibly, your abilities expand. Your confidence strengthens and your direction becomes clearer. But there is another reason the Stoics valued silence. Silence protects you from something dangerous, other people's opinions, which can easily influence your mindset if you are not careful. Because the moment you share a plan with the world, you also invite the world to judge it, and those judgments can shape your focus. Some will support you, some will doubt you, and some will criticize you, and if your mind is not strong yet, those opinions can poison your progress. That is why Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts," which shifts focus away from external noise. Not the quality of other people's thoughts, not the opinions surrounding you, but your own thoughts, your own discipline, and your own actions. And this is the quiet secret of focused people. They protect their mind like a fortress and do not allow every voice to enter or every opinion to affect them. They do not react to every criticism, and they do not reveal every plan before it is ready. Instead, they build quietly and consistently. They sharpen their abilities, strengthen their discipline, and when the moment arrives, their results speak louder than any announcement ever could. Because the truth is simple. Anyone can talk about a dream, but few people have the patience to build it in silence. And anyone can promise change. Few people have the discipline to become it quietly, and that difference is what separates those who drift through life from those who shape it. But there is still one internal battle that makes this practice extremely difficult. A battle that exists inside every human mind, the battle between impulse and control. Because sometimes the hardest thing in life is not staying silent in front of others, but staying silent inside your own mind. Now, we will explore how the Stoics trained their mind to control emotions, impulses, and reactions. And once you understand this mental discipline, you will realize that silence is not just about words. It is about mastering yourself. Many people believe silence only means speaking less, but the Stoics understood something deeper. That true silence is not just about the mouth, it is about the mind. Because the real battle is not always with words, the real battle is with impulses. The sudden urge to respond, the urge to defend yourself, and the urge to prove someone wrong. Most people react instantly when someone insults them, disagrees with them, or criticizes them, and everything happens too fast without control. But disciplined people do something different. They pause, and that pause changes everything. Let me tell you something simple but powerful. In many villages, blacksmiths work with iron inside small workshops, and when iron is placed inside the furnace, the fire heats it until it glows bright orange. At that moment, the iron becomes soft, flexible, and easy to shape. But if the blacksmith strikes it too early, before the heat has spread evenly, the iron cracks and its structure weakens. So the blacksmith waits patiently, even while the fire roars and the metal glows, watching carefully and allowing the heat to settle evenly inside the iron. Only then does the hammer fall, and when it finally does, the metal bends perfectly. Your emotions work exactly the same way. When anger appears, when frustration rises, or when someone provokes you, your mind becomes like heated iron, filled with intensity and urgency. In that moment, you feel the urge to react immediately, but if you strike too soon, if you speak too quickly, the result is almost always regret. Words you wish you never said, arguments that never needed to happen, and energy wasted on things that never truly mattered. This is why the Stoic philosopher Seneca gave a simple but powerful piece of advice. The greatest remedy for anger is delay, and that single idea carries deep discipline within it. Delay does not mean suppression or denial. It simply means pause, giving the emotion time to settle and the mind time to regain clarity. Because when emotion cools, wisdom appears. Even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius struggled with this. He ruled the most powerful empire in the world, facing criticism, political conflict, betrayal, and disrespect every single day. Yet in his private writings, he reminded himself constantly to turn inward instead of reacting outward, choosing reflection over impulsive response. Instead of reacting with anger, he examined his own failings, and instead of attacking others, he refined his own character. This is the essence of Stoic strength, because the moment you stop reacting instantly, you gain control over something incredibly powerful, your energy. Every argument drains energy, every unnecessary reaction drains energy, and every emotional explosion weakens your focus. And once that energy disappears, your focus disappears with it, leaving you scattered and ineffective. But when you choose silence instead, that energy stays with you and becomes fuel for discipline, focus, and progress. Imagine a river flowing through a mountain valley. When the water spreads in every direction, it becomes shallow, weak, and easy to stop, losing its force and direction. But when the river is forced through a narrow path, its power multiplies. The current becomes strong, relentless, and nearly unstoppable. Your attention works the same way, because when your emotions react to everything around you, your power spreads thin and loses impact. But when you control your reactions, your focus becomes concentrated, and concentrated focus builds extraordinary lives. This is why Stoic discipline always begins with awareness. Before speaking, observe. Before reacting, pause. And before judging, take time to understand what is truly happening. Because the quietest moment between stimulus and response is where your real freedom exists, the place where you decide who you become. The philosopher Epictetus taught his students something extremely simple. No man is free who is not master of himself, and this idea defines true control. Freedom is not doing whatever you want. It is controlling what controls you, your emotions, your impulses, and your reactions. Because the person who cannot control their reactions is controlled by everything around them. And this is the transformation that begins when you focus on yourself and stay silent. You stop reacting to every comment, defending yourself to every critic, and allowing strangers to control your emotions. Instead, you observe, think deeply, and respond only when necessary. And slowly, your mind becomes something rare and powerful. Calm under pressure, unshaken by noise, and focused only on what truly matters. But there is still one final challenge most people struggle with. Even when they stop reacting to the world, their mind continues chasing something dangerous: validation, the need for approval, and the need to be seen. This hidden desire silently controls millions of people without them realizing it, shaping their actions and weakening their independence. In the next part, we will uncover why the desire for validation quietly weakens your discipline and destroys your independence. And once you understand this trap, you will see why the Stoics valued inner approval over public recognition. There is a silent addiction that controls millions of people, and it doesn't look dangerous or feel destructive. In fact, it often feels good in the moment. But slowly and quietly, it weakens a person's independence, and that addiction is the need for validation, the need for people to approve your decisions and recognize your effort. The need to be seen, praised, and acknowledged becomes stronger over time, and once a person depends on that feeling, their life slowly stops belonging to them. It begins belonging to the crowd. Let me tell you something simple. In many forests, bamboo grows in a very unusual way, and when a farmer plants bamboo seeds, something strange happens. Nothing appears for a long time. For the first year, there are no shoots and no visible growth, and even after the second and third year, the ground still looks empty and lifeless. Most impatient people would assume the plant has failed and stop watering it, giving up before anything ever appears. But the farmer who understands bamboo continues watering the soil every single day, quietly and patiently, even without visible results. Because beneath the ground, something powerful is happening. The bamboo is building an enormous root system, strong, deep, and complex, preparing itself for what comes next. Then suddenly, in the fifth year, the bamboo shoots upward, not slowly, not gradually, but explosively, sometimes growing over 80 feet in just a few weeks. To someone watching from the outside, it looks like a miracle, but the truth is that the growth was happening all along. It was just invisible. Your personal development works exactly the same way. When you constantly seek validation, you become impatient and start expecting recognition immediately for your effort. You want people to notice your work and praise your progress before real results even exist, but real growth rarely happens in public. It happens in private moments, in quiet discipline, and in hours when nobody sees your effort. And if you depend on applause to continue, you will quit too early. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply and reminded himself constantly, ambition means tying your well-being to what other people say or do. If your happiness depends on other people's approval, then your peace is never truly yours. It belongs to them, and their praise or criticism controls your state of mind. A mind controlled by outside voices can never be truly free. The Stoics believed something very different. They believed the only approval that truly matters is your own, not arrogance or pride, but alignment between your actions and your values. When your effort matches your intentions and your discipline matches your goals, it creates a quiet confidence that does not depend on applause. The philosopher Epictetus explained this idea very clearly when he said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, if you truly want to grow, you must be willing to move forward without approval, even when people misunderstand or doubt you. And if your mind constantly needs their approval, you will eventually abandon your own direction. Think about how many people quietly surrender their dreams because of this. They wanted to start something meaningful, but someone laughed, or they wanted to change their life, but someone doubted them. They wanted to follow a different path, but the crowd disapproved, and slowly they returned to a life that felt safe, but never truly felt like their own. This is why Stoic discipline values silence. When you stop announcing your plans, you reduce the influence of outside opinions, and when you stop seeking praise, you strengthen your internal motivation. When you stop performing for an audience, you finally begin living for your own standards. And something remarkable happens when you reach that point. You stop comparing yourself to others, worrying about how your progress looks, and measuring your life through someone else's expectations. Instead, you measure your life through your effort. Did you improve today? Did you stay disciplined? And did you remain focused on what truly matters? If the answer is yes, then approval from the world becomes unnecessary. Because the strongest motivation in life is not praise, it is self-respect. The quiet pride that comes from knowing you are doing the work, even when nobody is watching or understands. Even when the results have not appeared yet, that internal strength continues to grow. But there is still one obstacle that makes this discipline extremely difficult. An obstacle that exists inside every human mind, the fear of being alone and standing apart from the crowd. The fear of walking a path that others do not understand silently pushes many people back into the noise of the world. Now we will explore why the Stoics believed solitude is not weakness, but one of the greatest sources of mental strength. And once you understand this, you will see loneliness in a completely different way. One of the biggest fears most people carry in life is the fear of being alone, and this fear quietly shapes many of their decisions. They fear silence, they fear solitude, and they fear moments when there is no noise, no conversation, and no distraction around them. So they constantly surround themselves with something: people, screens, voices, and endless activity, just to avoid being alone with their thoughts. Because the moment everything becomes quiet, they are left with themselves, and for many people that feels uncomfortable. But the Stoics saw solitude very differently. They believed that the strongest minds in history were not built in crowds, but in silence where clarity is born. Let me tell you something simple. High in the mountains, where the air becomes thin and the winds are strong, trees grow in a completely different way. In peaceful valleys, trees grow tall and soft because the environment is gentle and there is little resistance to challenge them. But on mountain cliffs, where storms are violent and the wind never stops pushing, the trees become something entirely different. Their roots grow deeper into the rock, their trunks become thicker, and their branches twist and harden under pressure. Because the harsh environment forces the tree to become stronger, and without that resistance, it would remain fragile and weak. Your mind grows in exactly the same way. When you constantly surround yourself with noise and approval, your mind becomes soft. dependent, and easily influenced by everything around you. But when you spend time alone without distraction and without constant validation, something different begins to happen inside you. Your mind begins to strengthen. You begin thinking for yourself, and you start observing your own habits, emotions, and patterns. And slowly, you become someone who is comfortable standing alone with your own thoughts. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once wrote something powerful when he said, "Associate with people who are likely to improve you," but he also warned about the dangers of constant social noise. Because when you spend too much time in crowds, you slowly begin thinking like the crowd, absorbing their fears, their doubts, and their distractions without realizing it. And before you notice, your life starts moving in a direction you never consciously chose. That is why solitude becomes necessary, not permanent isolation or abandoning society, but moments of intentional distance where you step away from the noise and return to yourself. Even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius practiced this discipline, and despite ruling millions, he constantly reminded himself of something simple and powerful. Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. A man surrounded by war, politics, and responsibility still understood the need to retreat inward, not to escape life, but to regain clarity. Because when you spend time alone, you begin to notice things about yourself that noise once hid from you. You notice where your attention is being wasted and which habits are weakening your discipline. You notice emotions that control your reactions, and this awareness becomes the first step toward gaining control over your own mind. Most people never experience this level of awareness because they move constantly from one distraction to another, from conversations to screens and endless stimulation. Their mind never becomes still long enough to observe itself, and without observation, there can be no mastery. The philosopher Epictetus believed that self-mastery is the highest form of freedom, and he taught that the person who understands their own mind cannot easily be controlled by the outside world. Because when you understand your own thoughts, you stop being manipulated by every emotion, pulled into every argument, or distracted by every noise. Instead, you become deliberate, intentional, and focused in everything you do. And something remarkable happens when a person becomes comfortable in solitude. They stop fearing silence, independence, and the absence of constant approval from others. Because they discover something far more powerful, inner stability, the ability to remain calm in chaos and focused in distraction. They begin trusting their own judgment even when others disagree with them. This is the quiet strength the Stoics built through solitude, not isolation from the world, but independence from its noise and distractions. They could stand among crowds without being controlled by them, listen without absorbing unnecessary opinions, and speak only when necessary. And when wisdom required it, they remained silent. But there is still one hidden enemy that constantly threatens this discipline. An enemy that quietly weakens focus and drains mental energy every single day. Overthinking. The endless cycle of thoughts that traps people inside their own mind and prevents them from taking action. In the next part, we will uncover how the Stoics trained themselves to stop overthinking and focus only on what truly matters. And once you understand this, your mind will feel lighter, clearer, and far more controlled. Even when a person learns to stay silent and begins avoiding distractions, there is still one battle that remains, and that battle happens inside the mind. Overthinking becomes an endless loop where thoughts keep replaying, future problems are imagined, and situations are analyzed that may never even happen. Slowly, without realizing it, the mind becomes exhausted, even though no real work has been done. Now imagine something simple. In a quiet village, a potter sits beside a spinning wheel with a lump of wet clay in front of him. The wheel begins to spin, slowly at first, and then faster, and the clay keeps rotating again and again. But if the potter simply lets the wheel spin endlessly without shaping the clay, nothing useful will ever be created. It becomes motion without direction, movement without progress. Only when the potter places his hands firmly on the clay and guides it with control does the spinning turn into something meaningful, something structured, something valuable. Your mind works in exactly the same way. Thoughts will always come, ideas will appear, and concerns will rise. But if your mind keeps spinning without direction, you become trapped in mental motion. You keep thinking without taking action, worrying without finding solutions, and imagining problems instead of solving them. The longer this cycle continues, the weaker your focus becomes, and the harder it gets to move forward in real life. That is why the Stoic Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to stay grounded in the present moment. He believed that the present is the only place where action is possible, because you cannot act in the past and you cannot act in the future. Most overthinking happens when the mind tries to control things that are simply outside its reach, like outcomes, opinions, or uncertain events, and in doing so, it wastes energy on things that may never even exist. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a powerful solution to this problem by teaching people to focus only on what is within their control. Your effort, your focus, and your discipline are yours to control, but results, other people's opinions, and unexpected situations are not. The moment you truly accept this difference, your mind begins to quiet down, because it no longer feels responsible for controlling everything. Overthinking often comes from a hidden desire to predict every outcome and prepare for every possible situation. But life has never worked that way. No matter how much you analyze, uncertainty will always exist, and trying to eliminate it only creates more anxiety. The Stoics understood that peace does not come from controlling the future, but from mastering the present and acting with clarity in the moment you are in. The philosopher Seneca explained this truth with brutal honesty when he said that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. If you think about it carefully, most of the fears and worries people experience never actually happen, yet they drain enormous energy as if they were real. People spend their time fighting imaginary battles while their real life remains unchanged. Disciplined minds take a different approach. Instead of getting lost in endless possibilities, they return their attention to reality and focus on the next step they can take. They stop trying to solve everything at once and instead act on what is in front of them. Slowly, their mind becomes calmer, clearer, and more focused, because action replaces confusion and direction replaces doubt. This is why silence becomes so powerful in this process. When you remove unnecessary noise from your environment, your thoughts begin to slow down, and when your thoughts slow down, your focus naturally returns. With that focus, you gain the ability to direct your life intentionally instead of reacting to every random thought or distraction. And when someone truly commits to this way of living, something deeper begins to change. People start noticing a different kind of presence, one that is calm, controlled, and unshakable. Now, we will explore why the most powerful people in the room are often the ones who speak the least, and how silence can command a level of respect that words alone can never achieve. There is a strange phenomenon you may have noticed in a room full of loud people arguing, explaining, and trying to prove themselves constantly. And in the middle of all that noise, there is sometimes one person who says almost nothing, yet their presence feels different from everyone else. They don't interrupt, they don't react quickly, and they don't try to dominate the conversation, but still something about them stands out. And somehow everyone feels their presence. People listen when they speak, and people respect them without even knowing exactly why, because that kind of presence is not created by words. It is created by control, the control of emotions, reactions, and energy that most people never develop. Let me show you something simple. In a remote area, far from cities, there is a large dam holding back an enormous body of water, and from the outside everything looks calm, still, and silent. There is no chaos and no noise, but behind that wall, millions of gallons of water are being held with precision, containing power beyond imagination. Now imagine if that same water was scattered across open land, spreading everywhere without direction or control. It would become shallow, weak, and completely lose its force. This is exactly how human energy works. When a person talks too much, reacts too much, and explains too much, their energy becomes scattered like water spread across the ground. But when a person controls their words, controls their reactions, and focuses their attention inward, their energy becomes concentrated. And concentrated energy creates presence that others can feel without explanation. That is why silence is not emptiness, it is contained power. The Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply and lived by it in his actions. He did not try to impress people with endless speeches, but instead reminded himself to let his actions speak louder than words. Because when a person's actions are strong, words become unnecessary. Think about how most people behave today. They constantly try to prove themselves, argue to show they are right, explain to gain approval, and speak just to be noticed. But the more they do this, the less impact their words carry, because words without restraint lose their value over time. The Stoic teacher Epictetus once gave a simple rule: be mostly silent or speak only what is necessary, and this idea holds deep power when practiced consistently. Not because speaking is bad, but because unnecessary words weaken your presence and reduce the weight of your voice. Every time you speak without purpose, you slowly lose the authority behind your words. Now imagine something different. Imagine becoming someone who speaks less, but observes more, reacts less, but understands more, and does not feel the need to prove themselves constantly. Someone whose confidence comes from within rather than from the reactions of others becomes naturally powerful. That kind of person becomes difficult to ignore, not because they demand attention, but because their presence commands it. There is a quiet authority in restraint. When you don't react to every insult, people notice your control, and when you don't argue with every opinion, people sense your confidence. When you don't explain yourself unnecessarily, people begin to respect your boundaries without you even saying a word. Because most people are predictable. Push them and they react, challenge them and they defend, ignore them and they seek attention immediately. But a disciplined person breaks this pattern completely by remaining calm and choosing when to speak and when to act. And that unpredictability creates power that others cannot easily understand. The philosopher Seneca understood this clearly when he wrote, "The more you value your time, the less you will waste it, and silence is one of the greatest ways to protect your time." Because unnecessary conversations, pointless arguments, and endless explanations drain your energy more than you realize. When you remove these things from your life, you gain something rare: mental space. Space to think clearly, act deliberately, and build something meaningful without distraction. And over time, this discipline begins to shape your identity in a powerful way. You are no longer the person who reacts instantly, seeks attention, or explains every move to others around you. Instead, you become someone who moves quietly, but moves with purpose, clarity, and control. And this is where the transformation becomes visible. Not because you announce it or try to prove it, but because people begin to feel it naturally. A calm energy, a controlled mind, and a focused presence that speaks without words. But there is still one final shift that completes this transformation. A shift that separates ordinary discipline from an unstoppable identity. Because at some point, this practice stops being something you do and becomes who you are completely. Listen closely, my friends. Up to this point, everything you've heard might feel like something you do, something you practice with effort and awareness. You try to stay silent, control your reactions, avoid distractions, and focus inward, but it still feels like a conscious effort. But there comes a moment when this is no longer something you practice, and it becomes who you are completely. And that moment changes everything. Let me show you something simple. In a quiet village, there is a man who for years has been shaping stone, working on the same block every single day without stopping. Each day he takes a rough, heavy block and strikes it with a hammer again and again, repeating the same motion with patience. At first, nothing seems to happen, and even after many hits, the stone looks exactly the same from the outside. Weeks pass, and still there is no visible change that anyone can notice. If someone walked by, they might think the effort is pointless, and that the stone is not changing at all despite all the work. But the man does not stop, and he keeps striking the same point again and again with consistency and focus. And then one day, with a single strike, the stone finally cracks open. Now think about this carefully. Did the stone break because of that final hit, or because of all the hits that came before it over time? The truth is that it broke because of every strike, every repetition, and every moment of silent effort that built pressure inside. All of that effort made the result inevitable, even when it was not visible at first. Your identity is built in exactly the same way. Every time you choose silence instead of reaction, you begin shaping your mind in a powerful way. Every time you ignore distraction, you strengthen your focus. And every time you stop seeking validation, you build independence within yourself. At first, it feels like effort, like you are forcing yourself to change and go against your old habits. But over time, something begins to shift inside you. You no longer have to remind yourself constantly, and you no longer have to fight as hard to stay disciplined in your actions. Because what once required effort slowly becomes natural and automatic without resistance. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius lived by this idea and trained himself until discipline became part of his identity rather than a temporary action. He wrote, "Such as are your habitual thoughts, such also will be the character of your mind," revealing a deep truth about human nature. In simple words, what you repeat daily eventually becomes who you are as a person. This is where most people fail. They try to change for a few days, maybe a week or even a month, but they stop when it starts feeling difficult. They return to old habits, old distractions, and old reactions, and then they conclude that the method does not work. But the truth is, they never stayed consistent long enough for the change to become their identity. Because real transformation is quiet and slow. It does not happen in one big dramatic moment, but in small decisions repeated daily over time. And those small decisions create a version of you that feels completely different from who you were before. The Stoic teacher Epictetus explained this clearly when he said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." Not talk about it or announce it, but do it daily, consistently, and silently until there is no gap between your intention and your actions. And something powerful happens when you reach that point. You stop being tempted by noise, and distractions begin to lose their pull over your mind. Validation becomes irrelevant because your mind is no longer searching outside for approval. It becomes stable from within. This is what it means to become unshakable. Not because life becomes easier, but because you become stronger and more controlled in every situation. The world will still be noisy. People will still have opinions, and distractions will always exist, but they will no longer control you. Because now you are not reacting to life. You are directing it with clarity and intention. The philosopher Seneca once said, "Luck is what happens when preparation meets opportunity," and this reveals why discipline matters so much. Most people miss opportunities not because they are unlucky, but because they are unprepared, distracted, and unfocused in their lives. But the person who has built themselves in silence is always ready when the moment arrives. When opportunity appears, they do not panic or hesitate. They act with confidence because their mind has already been trained through discipline and consistency. And this is the final shift. You are no longer someone trying to focus. You are someone who is focused by nature. You are no longer someone trying to stay silent. You are someone who controls when to speak with intention. You are no longer someone chasing discipline. You are someone who lives it every single day. But there is still one final step left. One final realization that turns all of this knowledge into a clear and powerful direction. Because knowledge without action changes nothing, no matter how powerful it sounds in theory. You will face a direct challenge, a simple but powerful test that will determine whether you remain the same or step into a completely new version of yourself. You've heard the ideas, you understand the philosophy, and you can feel the truth behind it clearly in your mind. But none of this matters if nothing actually changes after this moment, because knowledge without action is just another form of distraction. Let me leave you with something simple. In a quiet workshop, a blade rests on a table, sharp, polished, and perfectly crafted in appearance. It looks powerful, but it has never been used, never faced pressure, and never been tested against real resistance. Now imagine another blade, not as shiny and not as perfect, but it has been used, it has cut through resistance, and it has proven its strength. Now ask yourself honestly, which blade is truly powerful? The one that looks ready, or the one that has been tested through action? Most people live like the first blade, consuming knowledge, watching videos, and understanding everything without applying anything in real life. They are full of potential, but empty of action. But the person who transforms is like the second blade. They don't just listen to ideas, they act on them quietly and consistently without needing recognition from others. The Stoic emperor Marcus Aurelius reminded himself of something brutally honest. At once give up being a slave to events. Every time you react without thinking, you become a slave to your emotions, and every time you chase validation, you become a slave to other people's opinions. Every time you lose focus, you become a slave to distraction without even realizing it. But freedom begins the moment you take control, not tomorrow, not next week, but right now in this moment. So here is your challenge. Not something complicated or impossible, but something simple and powerful that can change your direction completely. For the next 7 days, live differently and observe how your mind begins to shift. Wake up and don't reach for your phone immediately. Sit in silence, even if it feels uncomfortable at first and your mind resists it. During the day, don't react instantly. Pause, observe, and choose your response instead of letting emotions control you automatically. Don't announce your plans, don't explain your goals, and don't seek approval from others around you. Just work quietly and consistently without needing attention. And most importantly, focus your attention only on what you can control, your actions, your effort, and your discipline in every moment. At first, it will feel strange and unfamiliar. Your mind will resist, and you will feel the urge to go back to old habits of reacting, speaking, and seeking validation. But every time you resist that urge, you take back control and strengthen your discipline. The Stoic teacher Epictetus said, "Don't explain your philosophy, embody it." And this is your moment to apply that idea in real life. Because transformation doesn't happen when you simply understand something. It happens when you live it through your daily actions. And if you truly commit to this, something powerful will begin to shift inside you. Your mind will become calmer, your focus sharper, and your actions more intentional. And slowly, without noise or announcement, you will start becoming someone completely different. Not loud, not reactive, and not dependent on approval, but calm, focused, and fully in control of yourself. This is what it means to focus on yourself and stay silent. Not weakness, not isolation, but real power. So don't just listen, don't just agree, and don't just feel motivated for a few minutes only to forget everything later. Make a decision right now and commit to it with action. Because the moment you decide and actually follow through, everything begins to change in your life. If you're ready for that change, then don't announce it, don't explain it, and don't seek validation for it. Just begin, stay silent, stay focused, and let your life become the proof.